Roll for Crit is made possible thanks to the support of viewers like you and our patrons on our Patreon page.
You can become a patron for just $1 a month at patreon.com/rollforcrit. You're watching Roll for Crit, and today I'm bringing you 2 reviews of 2 brand new Legendary expansions. This is my official Legendary hat, which I will be wearing from now on in every Legendary video. This is how you know I'm an expert and my opinions should be listened to and respected. Not too long ago, I did a video ranking all the Marvel Legendary expansions. You can go check that out elsewhere on our channel. But of course, they went and dropped another 2 since then, so I'm reviewing the last 2 expansions released in 2020, Into the Cosmos and Realm of Kings. 2 more small expansions. Actually, Into the Cosmos is a medium-sized expansion with 200 cards, and Realm of Kings has 100. We'll go chronologically. I will start by reviewing Into the Cosmos. This one centers all around Cosmos characters, intergalactic, Guardians of the Galaxy, people like that. You've got Yondu in there, Ronan the Accuser, Nebula, as well as Adam Warlock, Nova, Quasar, Moondragon, all kinds of fun people to play around with. And the big thing in this set, the big new mechanic here, well, it's actually an old mechanic, is shards. They finally brought back shards, which originated in the Guardians of the Galaxy expansions. Fittingly, they're bringing them back now with more outer space characters. If you don't know about shards, they are tokens. So you now have actual tokens, and they can be numbered between 1 and 3. That's just to show how many you have. So, you don't have to have like a giant stack of them if you're gaining more and more shards, or trying to show how many shards an enemy can have, because enemies can have shards too, villains I should say. If you get shards, some cards will let you have them via various means, maybe just by playing them, or maybe when you defeat a villain, you'll get a shard, and you can use a shard for 1 extra attack point on your turn. And you can use it right away, or you can bank them and save them up. And that's what I love about shards. I really love shards because you can save them up for these powerful turns. You always have those turns in Legendary where you just need that 1 extra attack point, if only you had it, and that's what's so great about shards. Or, if you just aren't getting the great high power attack cards that you need, now you can guarantee a way, if you just wait long enough, you will build up that attack power through other cards. It can feel really powerful, and now they have another use in this set. You can burn shards, which really just means spend them, but rather than spending them purely for attack power, you can now spend them for whatever the card specifies. So maybe you can spend them to draw a card, or to defeat a villain, or change the attack power of a villain, or something like that, or the cost of a hero in the HQ. In that way, it reminds me of the Fantastic Four expansion, which had the keyword focus, where you could spend your recruit points for things other than recruit. It's just great to have different options for these types of things, gives you more versatility, and it makes all the different heroes feel more unique, even though they're all operating with the same resource, which is shards. Speaking of the Fantastic Four, they also brought back a keyword from that expansion, Cosmic Threat, which means that certain villains will have Cosmic Threat with a type of class next to them, and if you play cards of that class on your turn, you can subtract from their total health power for each of those ones that you have, which allows them to have super powerful, crazy, high health enemies that seem impossible to take down, but if you get enough of those cards, you can whittle their health down, make it a little bit easier for you. One of the new enemy groups that makes a lot of use of this are the Celestials, and they have, again, super crazy high attack values, so they're hard to take down unless you can get those, but they have really powerful new effects called Celestial Boons, which is another thing I love from this set. These are permanent power-ups, permanent upgrades for you as a player. If you defeat that villain and keep them in your victory pile, they have an effect. Like it might say, the Mastermind is easier for you to beat on your turn from now on. Or you have an extra card, you have an extra hand size. So instead of having 6 hand size cards, I'm saying words good, now you could have 7 cards in your hand on each turn. from beating this guy. So, a lot of villains will give you a reward, but it's usually just a one-time immediate effect. This actually specializes you, gives you almost like an asymmetric player ability if you are able to take them out, and I love that. It can make things really fun. It can give you some really powerful combos if you pair those up with certain other cards. You get some cosmic threat going, and also you're making the mastermind weaker, or you're playing cards that let you draw more, and you have an extra hand size. It's awesome. I love that, and it gives a great reward for those. And it's just something different and new instead of just the fleeting. All right, my cards are played, my turn is over. You have something more permanent to base your chosen buys off of. Danger Sense also returns in this one. That's from the Spider-Man Homecoming set that everybody loved. This allows you to look at some cards in the villain deck, and for each one that is a villain, you get an attack power on your turn that you can spend. Also, if you can then reorganize those cards in any order that you want. So if you saw a Scheme Twist or a Master Strike and you really didn't want that to come up right now, you can change the ordering of that and know what's coming up, which is really helpful. I'm glad to see the keyword come back. I think it has cool potential. Now some villains have Danger Sense. In fact, there's a whole new villain group that is the Black Order of Thanos. So it's awesome that they're in there. You can, again, flesh out your Infinity War campaigns if you're doing that with other sets that have Thanos and stuff like that in them. And now their Danger Sense doesn't just give attack power to one villain, it actually affects all of the Black Order of Thanos and the Mastermind for that turn that they used it, which is very scary. So that's kind of a cool use of it. And then there's yet another new keyword in this one, Contest of Champions. In this one, you are playing a card from your hand or from the top of your deck, and whoever has the highest costing card wins that contest. It could also be the Mastermind. The Mastermind gets to draw some cards from the top of the hero deck and take whichever one is the highest for the purposes of the contest. And each contest will have one card type specified, and if you have a card type of that type, then it doubles that cost for your point value. So you can get a little bit of an advantage that way. Kind of a fun thing, adds a little bit more player interaction, but even if you aren't playing with as many players or don't want to compete with each other as much, you're still competing with the Mastermind, so it encourages that kind of conversation of, you should get a strength hero because the Mastermind does strength contests, and you want to make sure you have one because if the Mastermind wins a contest, that's going to be bad for all of us. Stuff like that. That and Danger Sense is a lot of looking at the tops of decks, which I guess I don't mind. With Danger Sense, it has a benefit that it will help you know what's coming up next. It could do that too, actually, for your own personal deck for your contest. You are able to choose to look at the top card of your deck and reveal that, and put it back if you don't think any of the ones in your hand are good. You want to take a chance, see what you can get. Other masterminds in this set, you've got the Grandmaster, not played by Jeff Goldblum, but he's still cool, and he does that Contest of Champions thing a lot, which makes sense. That's kind of his shtick. He's the Grandmaster. There's the Beyonder, who creates pocket dimensions in the HQ, makes it more costly. You have to spend some attack power to buy any heroes that are in pocket dimensions, which is just kind of neat. And then there's Magus, who I like because he has a henchman group as his group that he always leads rather than a traditional normal villain group. And his henchmen specifically affect him. They give more shards to his special master strikes that come out and become villains in the city. And a lot of these villains and masterminds have to do with shards, of course. So you're going to end up with shards piling up on different enemies, and they're going to have extra attack power because of it, and things can get really crazy. But if you beat them, you'll get a shard. So that feels really good, and again, adds to your shard pool. I've been waiting for them to bring back shards for a while because Guardians of the Galaxy was one of my favorite expansions for Legendary, so I'm overall really happy with this set. It adds a lot of very cool new characters into the mix. It brings back some old keywords that are okay, but shards is really my favorite thing, and celestial boons are also really, really cool. A lot to love in this one. As far as expansions go, if you're looking for something to buy for Legendary, this one is definitely one to pick up. My favorite hero from this set is Adam Warlock, who has some of the powers that I kind of mentioned when I was talking about what you can do when burning shards, spending them to halve the cost of a hero in the HQ, or even outright defeat a villain or a mastermind. with a little bit of a risk, but still, that's a crazy powerful ability. There's also a card that you need to discard another card in order to play, but it allows you to draw an extra 2 cards on your next turn, which is really powerful. I really enjoyed playing with him. My favorite scheme was Destroy the Nova Core. This one starts you off with 1 Nova card in your deck and 2 wounds and a shield officer. So you don't just start with the basic starter cards. You have something a little different going on. The Nova cards and Shield Officers do come into play in terms of what the scheme is asking for. But for me, I'd really just like this one because I think it's so unique and interesting to start with cards already built into your deck that aren't just the normal ones you always play with. It's something that I would even want to almost house rule sometimes and add in a few to the mix to start things off because it just makes the early game more interesting, I think. Next up is Realm of Kings. This expansion is all about everyone's favorite, the Inhumans. Everybody watched that Inhumans show that aired, right? And everyone knows and loves those characters now from the classic Inhumans television show. Well, if you don't, this one comes with, let's see, Black Bolt, Medusa, Crystal, Gorgon, and Karnak. Can't go wrong with any of those. They're all great Inhumans. And it's all about royalty and nobility and fighting for the throne. And that's probably the biggest mechanic in this one. I'll get right into that one. There's a thing now in this called the Throne's Favor. And this is not really a keyword of sorts, although it does kind of act as one. It is an actual, you choose an object. It could be anything you want. You just get an object. Everyone agrees that that represents the throne's favor. And cards will say that you gain the throne's favor. And if you have it, you keep it in front of you. And then other cards, often the same cards that gave it to you, will say, if you already had the throne's favor, now you can also spend it in exchange for a special effect, some kind of an ability. Maybe you get some recruit points or attack points, or you can draw a card, or who knows. The mastermind can also get the throne's favor. And if the mastermind or another player gets it and someone else already has it, they take it from that person. So there's kind of a tug of war thing going on. This is one that's definitely fun with a group, with multiplayer. Unfortunately, in these times, I've been playing Legendary mostly solo mode. So I was mostly fighting with just the mastermind over the throne's favor. But I think there's a lot of fun to be had with multiplayer of, oh, I have the throne's favor. Oh no, on my next turn, somebody else took it from me. You probably, if you have it, want to spend it if you have a card that lets you, because odds are someone else is going to take it from you and you don't want to miss out on that chance. But if the mastermind does something, usually it's worse if they have the throne's favor. So maybe you want to take one for the team and keep it to yourself, because otherwise you risk that bad thing happening. Then again, a lot of times it usually says, anyone who doesn't have the throne's favor, this bad thing happens to them. So maybe you do want to be selfish and keep it. It's an interesting new mechanic. I think it's fun. I think it adds a new layer to it that feels very different from just your typical keyword that has some new power, lets you draw cards or whatever. It's really its own thing. The other biggest thing in this one, I think, is the when recruiting ability. So now a lot of cards will say, when recruited, you get to do this effect. So it's something that happens right away when you recruit a hero, put it in your deck, but in the future, when you draw it and play it, that ability won't do anything. You don't need to look at it anymore. It's useless to you. It's only the first time you buy it. But it does make those cards a little more interesting, because sometimes it'll say, oh, get 2 extra attack power when you buy this card. And there were definitely times where on my turn I was like, I don't really want that card in my deck, but it would be great to have an extra 2 attack power right now. So yeah, I'll buy that just to enable me to defeat a villain right now. Or a lot of times it'll say, of course, when you recruit this, gain the throne's favor, which goes back to the throne. So that's pretty good. I do really like this. Almost all the cards in this set have a when recruited ability. And I think it's something that makes your choices more interesting, adds another wrinkle to it. I do think some of the cards maybe suffer a little because in order to balance out the power of it, they made their effects perhaps a little bit weaker, or just, to me, maybe it's just disappointing to look at the card and realize, oh, the top half I can just ignore now, and it's not as much fun as when I first bought it. There is a Karnak card. His big card allows you to use those abilities again. I'm pretty sure that's the only way you can use them after recruiting them. So if you happen to get his card that lets you do that, then those powers are incredible. Otherwise, they're just good that first time you bought them. This also brings back teleporting from Dark City, which I think is a really cool keyword. Lets you put a card from your hand and save it for a future turn. Now it has cards that can teleport other cards. So not just the card that says teleport, but it'll say teleport something different, which is a nice little twist. And they also brought back Abomination, which gives more power to the villains depending on what hero is beneath them. But now there's more variations to it, so they might say this villain gets more attack power for whichever hero in the HQ currently has the most attack power. So now there's another reason you really want to recruit that hero, because if you don't, that villain's going to be much stronger. Or now your own heroes can actually have abomination powers. So I think it's Gorgon in particular has Sewers Abomination. That means you get as many attack points extra on your turn as the hero in the sewers location currently has. So that'll make your turns more powerful, and again, make you want to be like, hey, please don't recruit that sewers hero this turn because I want to use that attack power next turn to kill something. And I think those little conversations can be a lot of fun. There's also a thing now one of the heroes has where you choose a villain group in your victory pile and you get more points for it. I believe Karnak really is the one who does this. So you might say this card is worth as many attack points as a villain group that you have. So you just choose one. And I think this is cool. It incentivizes you to go after one villain group in particular. It is very situational and very specific. So I feel like if you're going for Karnak, you need to make sure you can get a lot of those villains of the same type. Because if you don't, and other players aren't letting you do that, or you're just not, it's just not working out for you on your turns when those villains come out, his cards can be a lot weaker. So cool idea, but doesn't always work in practice. One scheme I need to mention from this set is Ruin the Perfect Wedding, which is not my favorite scheme, but it is maybe the funniest. You choose two heroes from outside of the game, and you put them on top of the board, and one of them is at the end of the aisle, and the other one is walking down the aisle, the wedding aisle. These two heroes are getting married, and as the twists come out, the one walks further down the aisle, and different things will trigger their KOing cards or people gaining cards from their piles, and you lose if those piles run out. But it's just a very funny idea, and it allows you to, if you have a couple that you really ship in the Marvel Universe, you want to see Spider-Man and Deadpool finally tie the knot, you could choose those guys. You could get weird with it. Like you could have Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying any two heroes that you want can now get married canonically in your legendary game if you'd like. So that's kind of a funny one. The rest of the scheme is really, they did a lot of adding extra heroes from outside the game for different reasons, including that one I just mentioned. So good stuff if you want to be able to incorporate more and more from your collection into a game. I think the when recruit abilities and the Throne's Favor concept in this one are really cool new ideas. I'm really glad to see them introduced. They are, when recruited is cool, but Throne's Favor is very specific, and it can feel a little weird if you're not like exclusively playing with the Inhuman sets, if there's just one character who gives someone the Throne's Favor and no one else is really doing that, the mastermind's not doing that. It's like, why do you just have an object that you're spending on your turn? So I don't think this is one that blends as well with other sets from Legendary. And I also think that the heroes for me in this one just didn't strike me as super fun or powerful. I didn't have a great time playing with them. I didn't quite lock into their different strategies the way I have with some other heroes in past sets. So for me, this one is a try it. Try it out, see if you like it, if you are a big fan of the Inhumans, or if that idea of the Throne's Favor sounds really fun and you often play Legendary with a group of like 3 or 4 and you like the idea of this kind of, hot potato throwing this Throne's Favor all around. I think that could be pretty fun. Then look into this one, but probably not one you need to prioritize that much. My favorite hero from Realm of Kings is Crystal. She doesn't really use any of the big new keywords from this set. Instead, what she does is have powers that trigger if you play one of each existing class type, and then she has cards that allow you to turn those cards into one of those types, or draw cards of those types to make it easier to trigger those effects. I just think it's fun to try to go for all those different types. She's someone who maybe would pair well with Captain America, who also rewards you for getting different class type heroes, and I thought it was satisfying to trigger those effects. My favorite scheme from this one was Tornado of Terrigen Mists. With this one, you actually have tokens of your choice, whatever you want to represent, your characters on the city spaces themselves. And you need to spend attack power to move left and right, and you can only attack villains in the city spaces you're currently on. This really transforms the way you look at the board. It makes it more like a traditional board game than just a card game, and you have to have people stay on certain spaces maybe to hold them down or spend extra attack to move to the villain you need to get to. Interesting, thought-provoking stuff. I liked it. I'm not going to give either of these expansions an official ranking in my overall list just yet, but certainly of the two, I'm more enthusiastic about Into the Cosmos. It's a bigger set. I like the mechanics more and the heroes more. I would put that probably pretty high because it also boosts one of my favorite expansions, Guardians of the Galaxy. It gives more room for those two to play with each other, makes shards more prevalent. You can have those mixed in different ways. Really loved that. Realm of Kings, I also liked, but it's probably more middle of the pack for me. It's like average level of quality for Legendary, which is still good. And if you like those characters, it's still worth picking up. So those are my two reviews of two new Legendary expansions, Into the Cosmos and Realm of Kings. Let me know in the comments, what do you like about these? Which heroes and schemes are your favorites? Which villains and masterminds are your favorites? Do you like shards as much as I do? And also, most importantly, which two legendary heroes are you going to have get married in your legendary games? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching. This has been my review of some legendary expansions, and this was Roll for Crit. Support our Patreon, like this video, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a thing.
Watch more of our content now to hold back Cthulhu's madness.